Hi there, welcome to Preparing for Purpose podcast. I am your host, Eve Mapanda. And as I do this podcast right now, I'm actually looking outside my window. It is quite gloomy. It is a bit, it's a bit wet in England. And I was reading my Bible and I was reflecting upon relationships because at the moment I started reading the Bible from Genesis from January, and this month I am in the book of Exodus, and I was particularly intrigued by the story of Moses and Aaron and how God gave Moses an instruction, yet Moses had self-doubt, and instead of God to plant the confidence in Moses, because God could have done that. God could have just said, you know what, when Moses said, you know, I'm not able to talk eloquently, I can't do it, he would have, God would have just said, okay, I'll give you the confidence. But no, God didn't do that. Moses was given a helper. He was given Aaron. And so, because Aaron could talk confidently, God used Aaron as well to be able to communicate what God wanted to communicate through Moses. Okay, now that's the biblical aspect of where I'm going. It got me thinking about relationships and how God uses us in relationships. And there's a particular friend, I am not going to mention her name, she knows who she is. And we were laughing about it this week, and I was like, oh my gosh, this makes sense. This makes sense why certain things have happened. And now I just see why God wanted me in her life, why God chose a season for me to be in her life, because we've always been friends with this person, yet it's only in this particular season that the last few years that we have really gotten close, and she's really stood by me. And at a point where life became very difficult for me, but then also she grew my faith, and I came to know through her that she was being used by God to pull me closer to God, like to grow that intimacy with God. And in this particular story that I was relating to, with Moses and Aaron, she has a gift and a way to kind of speak about the Bible, to talk about God that, I used to look at her and I'm like, why are you not sharing it? And one of the things that she used to say is, I don't have the confidence to speak. And it reminded me about that story. And so how God then used me, like he used Aaron, was to be able to speak on her behalf in the beginning, but not just speak on her behalf, to be able to use what God had placed inside of her to push out what she was meant to be doing, what she was purposed for. And as she blossoms, more and more of God and what God wants to say is coming through her. And now, one thing that happened here for me was also, as I was helping her to build her confidence, she was also helping me to build my confidence in being more intimate with God, in also being more intentional with my walk and my faith. And so in this relationship, where it talks about iron sharpens iron, it's so important that the people that you are surrounding yourself with, and this is where I kind of started to realize that there's a reason why we have certain people in our lives. There's a reason why God will send someone. God is very intentional in everything he does, and he is very specific. And God doesn't need to tell you why someone is in your life. Excuse me. He doesn't need to explain why he has taken a certain direction. And sometimes God will pull people away from us, people that we thought we were going to do forever with. Or he might bring people in that we never expected to even be in association with. But God is very intentional in everything that he does. And so just like the book of Exodus and how God used Moses to bring the Israelites out of Egypt, he was very specific. And out of everyone, like God chose Moses, he could have chosen anyone. He could have chosen anyone who was more qualified. He could have chosen Aaron. He could have just gone straight to Aaron, but he didn't go straight to Aaron. He went to Moses. But God already knew what Moses was going to say. And so he could have, in that moment, just put the confidence in Moses and let that be done and let his will be done. But no, God knew that Aaron would be part of the story. Because in the same way, he also had a purpose for Aaron. Aaron had his own purpose as well. But his purpose was linked to Moses. And that's why God didn't directly give Moses the confidence. And so it brings me back to us and understanding that we should not take relationships for granted. Whether those relationships are good or bad, we should not take them for granted. I see everyone in my life as a lesson, firstly, but I also see everyone in my life as a blessing. Whether they were good, whether they are bad, I see them as a blessing. And because we never know why people are in our lives, it's important that we be in a posture of love and gratitude, because every person that God sends to us is for a specific reason. And that reason will only be revealed when we have chosen to trust and believe that whatever God means for us, it is for good. Even in the times that you feel like you can barely go on, even in the times that you feel like people have left you, it is in those moments that God is working. It is in those moments that God is going to send someone that you didn't expect. It's in those moments that the person that you think is against you is actually the person that God is using for your good. As I conclude this, I want you to remember that whatever you've been praying for could be already answered. And the answer can be the person that is standing right in front of you. The person that has been called to bless you, that has been called to put the confidence that you have been praying for so that you can be able to do what God has called you to do. Whether it's to start that podcast, start your YouTube channel, start preaching, start doing events, whatever it is that you're waiting for God to do in your life to build that confidence in you. God has probably sent someone that you're not even looking at. Or maybe they're already there and you just haven't thought of it. So it's so important that you treasure the relationships in your life and get to see them for what they really are. A gift from God. Because you never know whom God has sent to bless you.